Alright, so Raphael 1, the AP 0, hydroxychloroquine, the peer-reviewed lie, and unitive leadership is what I'm going to give a brief summary right now. So they have denounced that AP article, which I stated before was a false article on a false peer-reviewed paper because it wasn't officially. They released a peer-reviewed paper that hadn't been peer-reviewed. It was still in the testing grounds, and so I called the AP out on that, and I did it really fast because I knew what they were trying to do. They were trying to make hydroxychloroquine to where people were going to be afraid to use it because it more than likely works and it's cheap, and the pharmaceutical industry wants you to buy more expensive medications and not cheaper medications because it's all about money. Everything is about money. Don't lie to yourself. And other good news about that is they also said with the coronavirus that it is not like asymptomatic carriers are more than likely not going to spread it. It's mostly spread through cough and sneezes. So that's good news to where you don't have to worry too much about asymptomatic carriers. Okay, so, and because that was contested as a lie about the hydroxychloroquine, it's going to be into trials again. So, more good news. So, let me talk a little bit about peer-reviewed papers so that everybody can understand what peer-reviewed means, since I'm going through the process because I'm pursuing a doctorate degree. So, first off is nobody can prove anything, not even your own reality or anything like that. And the reason why is you have to look towards law. And law, all you have to do to convict somebody in a criminal trial is to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, a reasonable doubt does not mean 100%. It's less than 100%. So, I forget what the percentage of that would be or anything like that, but it would be like, maybe 70, 75%, maybe 80, to where you're like, you know what, I'm really convinced that he did it, because there's no way, unless you like travel back to the past, that you're like ever gonna know that the person did it or not. So that comes into peer-reviewed papers. Every peer-reviewed paper, anything that academia does, is not 100% legit, because you can't prove anything. There will always be doubt, and you can't eliminate the doubt. You can eliminate it to a degree, but even statistics is the same way. It's based on probability, and that probability leaves doubt. Yeah, and their perfect model is, from what I was gathering when I took it, was 95% and 5% on error. So even statistics can't prove things 100%. Even DNA doesn't prove everything 100%. It even leaves room for error. So what is peer-reviewed then? All peer-reviewed is research. I'm just adding to research. It's look, what it is we have all this evidence that says this is most likely the reason for it being. Now, does that mean that that is the reason? No, because there's always doubt. That's why I don't believe climate change. yes, there is a lot of evidence to back up climate change, but you can go through and disprove that evidence from a human man-made perspective is what I'm talking about. The evidence doesn't add up. From my research that I've done when it comes to climate change, it has to do with the sun mostly, as in we just came out of what they call a solar maximum. Now when a solar maximum happens, the sun's in a lot of activity. We're talking about between that 11-year period, we're talking about 40,000 to 50,000 sunspots being produced. And then now we're at the solar minimum for 11 years, which means that instead of 40,000 to 50,000 sunspots, we're going to get 40 within that 11-year period. So this is going to bring more rain to us because there's going to be less solar activity, less evaporation, less escaping our atmosphere, probably because temperatures are going to be cooler. They should be. The scientists have even called for that there might be a little mini ice age that hits us. So right now, we'll for this 11-year period, we'll test whether, humans are actually causing climate change, or if it's the sun, and its activity is more of the leading cause. And so this will be an interesting time in that. Let me see if there's any more else that I want to add to this. Oh, yeah. Unitive leadership. And I wanted to add something else to the peer review thing. So basically, the other thing that you need to think about, this kind of goes into the unitive leadership. Let me start off with this on the unitive leadership. Ever since you were born, you were told who to love, who to hate, and even the people who would love and hate you. And you were told that this exists, that this is the way you do things, that you gotta do this by the time you're 20, and you gotta be there by the time you're 50. You are basically a sum of other people's beliefs and knowledge. So the real question comes down to is, who actually are you? Are you all this other stuff that people fed to you, or are you somebody different? So I encourage you to go explore who you are. And that leads into unitive leadership and unitive justice. Since this whole topic has kind of come about, I think we're going the wrong direction with this. I don't think we should defund the police or anything that too drastic. So what we need to do is we need to start the basics of what we're all really looking towards, and that's unitivism. Socialism is not going to solve your problems. All socialism does was it would establish the Democratic Party as the dictating rulers of America, which we don't want that happening. And then it will be like, oh, you have to be an elite member of the Democratic Party, or a Hollywood star, or somebody like Bill Gates, and then you would be allowed to own guns and stuff. Have the right treatments, because only those privileged people, they're above you. And that's the reason why I don't stand with or for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is not about equality whatsoever. The Democratic Party is about you should worship the elite and be their slave. That is the truth about the Democratic Party. Now, leading away from that, what am I talking about? Unitive. It is a foundation based off of love. For example, like in the justice system, if somebody commits a crime, we would probably start off with low-level crimes, maybe stealing, or maybe a small scuffle fight happens, but nobody gets too badly injured. There's several ways that it could be mediated, but the whole basic of the idea is, okay, well, you guys did something wrong, so now we need to punish you, so we're gonna take away your life for a few months and throw you in jail. And then when you get out, you won't have a job or anything like that. That's your punishment. You gotta start all over. Well, that does not help anybody. That just really makes life harder on them. And then it creates more issues. So our justice system says that basically if you do wrong to somebody, we're gonna punish you to where it does a lot of harm in your life, which doesn't really solve anything, because then it just kind of carries on the whole thing about committing harm. You don't know what those jail or prison systems are like, how much harm's going to be done to them in there, mentally, psychologically, and even physically. And then majority of the time people have to recommit a crime because, look, people are unforgiving, oh, well, you committed a crime, so I'm not going to give you a chance at life. So what do they do? Well, I guess you just want me to commit crimes, so that's what they do. They go out and they commit more crimes because that's all they know. That's the only way that they can survive. So things have to change from this direction, because nothing's being solved. It's just creating more pain and more hurt. So we have to come at things from a different perspective. We have to love and understand what is the reason why this is happening. What is it in their life that is causing them to do this? And if we can get to the root of the issue, then we can confront the conflict and move them in a different direction towards success. It would be the same way as in with a business organization, not committing crimes within the organization, but like, say a problem happens at work. Because what we like to do is we like to avoid problems. We have other ways of settling problems, like, we'll just take it to court, and hopefully in 3 years they'll just drop the case because we have so much money and they don't have enough money that they won't be able to avoid their attorney. There we go. We took care of the problem. You didn't take care of the problem. You just delayed it. The issue's still there. And it'll resurface time and time again. We can't just keep on avoiding problems. We must confront them. And by confronting them, if you do them right and you create an understanding, change happens. Oh, you're working 2 jobs because you don't have enough money. Well, that would be like talking to your employer. Like, every single time that I've had 2 jobs and I've told my employer that, their solution wasn't ever, well, what do I need to do to where you just focus on this one job and I can pay you more money, so that you only have this job to work for? That would be like an understanding situation and a show of love by an employer. So that would solve that problem. See, and that's the issue, is we're not solving problems. We just keep creating problems. And that's where our thinking is in error, and that's the behavior that needs to be changed. Is we need to solve problems, not delay them. Defunding the police will not solve any problem. It'll just create more problems. Now, what would solve the problem is some kind of psychological exam that could be administered to incoming cops, and probably all the existing cops, to see if they have any kind of triggers or a bullyish attitude that would prevent them from doing their job right. For example, I've known a cop who was going through a training program, and the only thing that he was interested in in doing was pulling over teenagers. And this is a real thing. Cops want to bully teenagers. I'm still a victim of that today when I shave or something like that. I don't know what it is, but sometimes I appear younger, I guess. And so when I get pulled over, some of these cops think I'm like 21 or 18 or, you know, around that age. But when they look at my ID and they see that they're 30, that I'm 36, or I tell them that they're 36, I can see their eyes kind of wide open up, and they're like, well, I'm gonna give you a warning now. And I'm like, what? Were you gonna give me a ticket before because I was because you thought I was maybe a little bit younger? So this is kind of like our attitudes need to change. We need to start being more appreciative towards one another. We all share the same energy. We are all one. So if I do something to you, it is something that I do to everyone. And this, you know, will take time, and I'll probably have to start off on small levels before we see it impact the larger levels. But there are two people that I encourage you to read. I'm writing a dissertation paper over this about the workplace environment, because I plan on, you know, leading my organization that I want to create in a unitive leadership style. And that is, you don't also take care of your employees, but you help take care of the society around you. I mean, all is one. We're all connected. You know, even in business, yeah, might have employees, but I might have employees, but there are customers outside that purchase things from me, so I got to take care and kind of understand them too. But they also have to be understanding of you too. So there's a lot of miscommunication because people don't really, you know, talk about these things or realize the relationship of these things. We don't critically examine things anymore. We just think this is how it is. It's us versus them, and that's how it always has to be. It doesn't always have to be that way. It's only that way because you choose it to be that way. We can choose a different way. Alright, so those two people I'm going to leave down. Their names are Sara Daves and Sylvia Clute. And I hope I said those right. But I'm going to leave you their websites. And like I said, I'm doing a dissertation over this. About conflict avoidance and things of that nature, and so I hope to enter it into the hope to grind it into consciousness that this is the direction, this is the path we need to go. If you want equality, if you want great justice, if you want an actual legit reform of our society that would be fair yet stable, then I suggest this path. Alright. Well, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope everyone enjoys this, and have a good one. Peace. Bye.